So it is 5:30 and I am calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions and matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. You want to okay, the rules of
I realize how rude I was being. Apologies to everyone.
Okay, that was important. The rules for public comment are at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. And I just wanted everyone to know that Nate, don't believe has made it. He's come down with a cold, so let's all wish him well, and hopefully he's home resting. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Anybody? Okay. Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of July 26, 2023?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 26, 2023. Does everyone have a chance to read these? I didn't see any obvious changes. I think this time of 6:23 p.m. is pretty suspect.
No, that was a real time.
That's amazing. All right, does anybody have any changes? No? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Can I hear a motion for the warrants?
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion review.
Can I have a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated August 11, 2023, in the amount of $25,158.56. So there's nothing unusual about this one.
Okay.
Lifeguards.
All right. Any questions on payroll? Accounts payable?
Accounts payable dated July 29 through August 11, 2023, in the amount of $65,475.36. A nice small one.
Green Mountain Well Company?
That is for replacing the well pump
Oh, that's right.
when it went down.
Yep.
But I will be submitting that all to the insurance company,
Okay.
hopefully for reimbursement.
Simon Operation Services.
That is our wastewater
Oh, right. Got it.
and water. Yep.
Any other questions?
I do not.
No? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on to public comment on items not on the agenda. Does the Select Board have any public comments before I move it on? Okay, yeah, are there any comments in the room? Public comments not on the agenda? Are there any public comments online on items not on the agenda? Hearing none, moving on to the town manager's report.
So the highway department took delivery of the new GMC 3500 Sierra pickup yesterday, color red. She's very nice. It's a 2024, so it's all redesigned, but it's a nice truck. So they'll get it, like, you know, have the logo put on it, and he's got to move his oil tanks and stuff like that, and put it in the back of his truck from the old one. So that'll happen, you know, over the next few weeks. We executed the contract with AP Triton, and I have a teleconference call tomorrow with Rich Buchanan. First installment of property taxes are due Friday, August 18th by 4:30 at Town Hall. Town Hall will be open from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. for people who want to walk in. You can also go to our website, under the departments menu, click Treasurer Finance Office, and there's a link for taxes for reoccurring debit, authorization, and ACH payments. So you can pay online, but you're welcome to come here. Vermont Homeowners Assistance Program is reopened. It is assisting folks who are behind that already had an account opened up. So they had a cap. That cap has been raised from $30,000 to $40,000, and before you could only apply once. That is not the case right now. So they have money. If you're still behind in your taxes or water and sewer, I would encourage you to apply for the program.
But not for people who are newly behind.
So if you are a new account, you can sign up for a waiting list.
Okay.
So there's that option as well. So I don't know the reasoning for allowing people that have already applied and received money, maybe because their account is already established, not sure. But there's still money out there for delinquent taxes and water and sewer. And the program has been helpful to quite a few people in Putney, and I'm actually thankful for that. So, letters were sent to 108 property owners who have not filed homestead declarations to the state. If you reside in Vermont, in Putney, you should be filing a homestead exemption declaration. What that does, it lowers your actual tax, your property tax invoice.
It can.
It
doesn't
can.
necessarily.
It can. There's a criteria.
Yeah.
And what happens if that gets reduced, the state ends up sending money to the town. So I think a lot of times, I had a gentleman come in today, and he's like, well, I've lived in Putney for 13 years, and this is the first I've heard of this. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, do you have an accountant that does your taxes? He's like, yes. I says, is that accountant in Vermont? No. You need to tell your accountant that you have to file this every year. So that's the main hiccup with people who haven't filed. So you gotta check in with your accountants and ask the question.
Make sure they're following the right laws in the right states.
That's right. Let's see. I'll be out of the office next week on August 15th for the 2023 Vermont Community Leadership Summit in Randolph, Vermont, and it's an all-day event, and I'm going to be hopefully traveling up with Nate Snell, because he's going to go along with me.
He's going to be healthy by then.
Yes.
I have it as an email.
He's young. He should be, right? So I just want to announce changes at Town Hall. I didn't think to do it, but I just want to acknowledge that, so Kim Monroe will be moving to the administrative assistant / treasurer position here at Town Hall. She's been with the town over 5 years, and this new position will give her ample opportunity to grow and better her skill set. So I'm very pleased for that, that move for her. And with her experience as the assistant town clerk, she will be able to assist and onboard the new assistant town clerk / communication liaison. I am restructuring roles and responsibilities, and Rachel Ryan will join our team on August 21st. She has a degree in communications and experience in parks and recreation.
Score.
I'm so excited about it too. Will be interviewing for a restructured assistant treasurer position. I have somebody for the following week. And honestly, that position will be someone that can sign checks, invest money, and manage grants and track them.
Okay,
So that's my plan for town hall.
that'd be great.
So, yeah, because a lot's gonna happen in a year. I see it.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? So when you're looking at, the FTE, the equivalent, with these positions, are there FTEs being added?
FTEs.
Full-time equivalents, is there,
Oh, yeah.
what are we adding? Like
So-
a half of a position or?
No, so Rachel will be 32 hours, Kim is 32 hours. There is opportunity to if they're doing a select board, the minutes,
Right,
so there's additional 5 hours. But the assistant treasurer, I only see that as a part-time.
right. So what I'm trying to do is kind of add up all of what we had and now what we're going to have and get a sense of the difference in the hours. Like, are we adding?
We're not losing hours. We're gonna be adding hours.
Well, that's what I'm
I think
asking,
we're
yeah.
adding a half.
What are we
position.
adding?
We're
A half-time
yes, we're-
position.
We're
The
adding
equivalent
half
of a
person.
half time
Correct.
position. Great,
Correct.
that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to get at, yeah.
And then down the road, there might be further changes. We'll see how it plays out.
There always are.
Yes, there are. So,
Well, that's great.
yeah. And that's all I have.
Okay, does the select board have any questions or comments? There are questions?
I would just like to say I'm really excited, and particularly, I'm excited to have Kim in the new role, and I'm really excited to have a communication liaison that built into someone's job description. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will definitely go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Any questions or comments in the room? Questions or comments online, Mr. Furman?
Madam Chair, thank you first for having our town manager's comment about accountants not taking into account the homestead declaration. This would be an incompetent accountant. I'm mentioning this for the public's benefit because accountants are professionally responsible for applying all laws with in the jurisdiction of their client, where their client is resident. Now the other thing is, may we have an update on the town hall renovation, please?
You may, Mr. Fairman. So I'm meeting with Sue Coakley and Lisa Papazian, and actually Sue will be here a little bit later to update what's going on, but we are looking at a grant to move town hall a little bit further. So, and just so you know that the MERP grant will allow us to do a level 2 energy assessment on this building, which will help us with the HVAC system that we kind of got hung up on.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments online? Anything else the select board has? Okay, moving on, boards, committees, and commissions. We do have planning commission update, but Sue is not here. She's not online either, is she?
She might be running a little bit late.
Okay.
She was in my office a bit ago, so
Oh, okay. So should we
we can just move her down.
we'll just float her until she's
Yeah.
here, okay? So the next piece, on boards, committees, and commissions is Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee appointment proposed for Jill Hinckley. We got, well, it looks like it came via PEG to Karen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we got a letter of interest from Jill Hinckley, which says, I'm writing with my interest to join the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. I attended a meeting this month, and Swift indicated that the next step was to indicate interest in how I might support the board charge. I couldn't locate a process for joining a board on the town website, but offer the following. I am interested in furthering the diversity, equity, and inclusion interests, ideas, and considerations as they relate to the town and what I can offer given my background at Landmark College. I've worked at the college for 35 years and have completed my graduate certificate in post-secondary disability services this month, which has included a lot of coursework related to laws surrounding access and inclusion. Related to the committee meeting I attended, I found the discussion about flag policy interesting and complex. Policy development is layered, and I've had a lot of experience in my role as assistant vice president and dean at the college. I appreciated Meg Mott's cautions as she advised at the meeting based on her expertise. I believe I can also help advise on inclusionary practices and ideas as they relate probably to policy, practice, and planning. I would be available to join in September if my interest here meets the criteria. Best, Jill. So we do have Swift on line, and Jill's not here, right?
I had no way to.
I invited Jill to come,
Okay.
and she would have come if she weren't out of town this week.
Okay,
So-
well, that's fair.
she's out of town,
Okay.
and so I told her we would. She's been to equity and inclusion
She's been to a meeting.
a meeting. Swift can speak to her sense of her appropriateness, and then I'm happy to speak to it as well.
Okay, so Swift, do you have something about Jill?
Yeah, I don't know her well. I was glad to get to meet her. I guess I'm at the point of recognizing we have a lot of members, and you, Eileen, emailed me about this of a lot of members, and sorry, I'm walking. Some members are not able to make a lot of our meetings right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so growth at this point is good, but then also to meet quorum, we might have to take some steps. You had said something about having, I don't know, absentee, what's it called, supplement?
I mentioned we could possibly reduce the number of actual members, and then you could have alternates.
Alternates,
Yeah.
right. So that seems like something to go forward in the future with, but this point I don't have any concerns with Jill at all. Seems like she's excited, interested, motivated. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to speak to her appropriateness for forwarding the mission of that particular committee. I think she's got a lot to bring, tons of experience with policy and diversity, and will bring a fresh perspective that I think would be only strengthen that committee more.
And she doesn't say that, and she works in Landmark, so she's familiar with Putney. Does she live in Putney? Not
Yes.
that okay, because we do have a quota for that too. So do we want to move today, or do we want to wait for her to come back? It's up to you guys. How do you want to?
I move that we appoint her. I mean, we don't have I also directed, I told her that one of the first things she would be doing if she joined the committee was looking at reviewing the policy about appointment.
Yeah.
But according to that policy as it stands right now, I mean, we don't require that people come. We suggest that people come, and we encourage people to come to the board. But I don't think the fact that she's not here right now, given I don't know, given my experience with Jill, who I've worked with for 25 years, I think we should grab her while we can before she gets pulled in another direction. That's my sense.
Okay. So did you make?
I would make a motion to accept Jill as a new member of the Equity and Inclusion Committee.
Second.
And I would second it.
Okay, we've got 2 seconds. So it's been moved and seconded to appoint Jill Hinckley to the diversity, it's the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee, right? It's been moved and seconded to appoint Jill Hinckley to the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee. Is there further discussion on the board? Are there comments in the room? Are there comments online about this appointment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Sue,
Yes,
we were missing you.
I'm sorry, you're just.
We were so fast.
You didn't trust us, did you? So are you ready to?
I am.
Okay, sure? Okay. All right, so go ahead.
Maria?
Hello.
Hello. Happy August. Here we are.
Thank you.
It's going fast.
Thank
The
you.
summer does. Welcome. All right. Now, where should I be? For the camera. I'm getting really good. Right here, straight over. All right. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. Oh, this is the agenda. Could I borrow this?
You can.
So, a few updates today. The first one is about the town plan. Basically, it continues to be on schedule. We have our hearing scheduled for August 24th. The public hearing draft was published on the 25th of July in time for a 24th hearing. It's been distributed to the surrounding states, to the state, to the Windham Regional Commission. You have notices up, you have received yourselves and sent you copies, or Karen sent you, gave you copies. They're very precious, the printed ones, because they cost about $25 a piece. So we're placing them around town with a do not remove sign. We do have, and there are some here available, but because they're expensive and they are a draft and there's going to be future ones, we're encouraging people to look at them electronically, which is actually the better form because they have links to other information. But they are available in printed form. And a newspaper notice should be coming out tomorrow. So
I believe I saw it in the comments today.
Oh, good. I saw the
Yeah.
comments said that it's out. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting comments, and we appreciate continuing to get feedback. It only makes it better. It's so much information. We got the full integrated draft on July 3rd, which of course was just getting ready for the holiday, and we had to be ready on the 11th to make any final edits, which we did, and then that got turned around and we got the document, which was, we said, good enough for a hearing. And so there are a number of things that we're still working through, but we decided it's really best just to get the public comment on the final draft, and we appreciate the generosity of the comments that we're getting. So that seems to be good. The schedule is here. Again, the hearing, it says the hearing's on the 25th, it's the 24th, and comments are due the 29th, and the commission will meet on the 5th to finalize edits so that we can have a draft to review and approve on the 14th, and then get that to you on the 15th for a presentation on the 20th. And that should be our handoff at that point. You, of course, do have 2 hearings yourselves after that. It would be helpful to know what you would like from the Planning Commission as you move into the hearing phase, what type of support or help. You may not know that now, but that would be a good thing for you to let us know so that we can put it on our schedules to provide whatever support you might want. So that would be it. And I would say that the implementation plan, which is chapter 9, is the one thing reflects no comments from any of us. It was produced last because it pulls from the action items in all the prior chapters, which were being finalized, between July 3rd and July 11th. So we didn't get an implementation plan until it was time to go out the door, and we thought, it's good enough, and it's worth looking at. Again, it doesn't reflect all the actions, it's a question of who, the time frame, what resources, and the outputs, and those are all listed there. And again, I think it's a very good draft, but it is very much worth looking at, and giving some thought in particular to that, but any other sections. So that's the town plan. Any questions?
No, I just, I think, for me, it would be helpful to, we're supposed to be attending the public hearing anyway. Is it a joint session?
No, it's
It's just a public,
it's just a
planning
planning commission, because then you're gonna have 2 select board hearings.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no joint commission meeting? I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of the
You're thinking
sidewalk.
of the Putney.
I'm thinking of sidewalk. Okay. So yeah, I think, if we can attend the 24th and see how it runs,
Yeah.
then we'll have a good idea of how we might want to run one
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I actually went recently and I went to the Brattleboro, the town of Brattleboro's final select board hearing on their zoning bylaw update that they were doing as a next step in their town plan. It was very helpful to me to see how they ran that kind of hearing, because it's a little different than the commission meetings, you
Mm-hmm.
invite people in. Personally, I've done that before. I used to work for a utility commission and I did hearing officer, so we had a way of doing it. But it's very interesting to see how towns do it, and I'll try to model some of what I saw in the Brattleboro hearing when I do. So do come, and we can certainly provide any feedback we get to you about how we ran it.
And people can submit comments. How do they do that?
So there's a number of ways. I provided a link to it, but it's the way we've been getting comments all along. So there's a putneyplanning@gmail.com. It's an email address, which is really the best way because you can provide attachments and that kind of thing. But people can provide them in a written form by mailing them to here, town hall, or dropping them off during hours when town hall is open. So that's how written comments come, but we do need to have them by the 29th so that we can get everything turned around on the 5th of September, which is just a week.
Okay.
Yeah, and the hearing will be at the Putney Friends Meeting House. A lot of things were busy that night, and including this space was already booked. So we needed something with air conditioning. It can still be very hot those days, and that could accommodate the Zoom and virtual participation. So we'll be doing that.
Doesn't have air conditioning.
What's that?
Putney Friends doesn't
They
have
don't?
air conditioning.
Oh, well, they can open the windows.
Yeah.
I asked them about that. No, okay. Maybe that's what they meant.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I've spent a lot of time in there, and
I
I've
bet
never
you have.
had air
No
conditioning.
one would know better than somebody who sat in the hot weather.
Right.
Well, anyway, it's a
Yeah,
bigger space, a little more
it's a
ventilation.
comfortable space.
Yeah. We'll provide lemonade.
Okay.
All right, so then, any other questions from folks in the room?
Sorry. So
Not me.
huh? Oh yeah, there's comments online.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Anne. Sometimes I have a terrible thing with names.
No, I was just interested in whether or not the corrected land use map would be ready by the 24th for people to look at.
No, we don't have any budget to do 2 rounds, but we will be updating the maps. We're preparing to do that. We're not going to have an updated version of the town plan in any respect on the 24th. What we're doing is we actually had 30 days, for people to review the document. We're just getting comments. You were one of our key commenters, Anne, but you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And so we're getting comments and we're taking them all in, and open meeting law does not allow us to talk about them until we are in session, and we're not in session again until the 24th. So we're going to use that for more listening, and then we're going to meet on the 5th, and that's when we can talk about it. So that's the process that we have to go with.
And I just want to say thanks for all the community inclusion so far.
Yeah, it's a better plan for it,
Absolutely.
and I've already gotten some feedback that's going to make it even better. So I really heartily encourage people to review it critically, and it only gets better with input. So it's been a fast process.
Why is it so expensive to print the?
It's all color, It's the color, and it's 62 pages total. And we did find a printer who could do it cheaper. I mean, it actually held up the printing for a whole week as we were looking around for the best option. We didn't want to print a large number of them.
Yeah.
So we printed initially 20 in addition to the ones that Karen printed. So there's not a lot of budget, really very little budget actually. So I want to save some budget for printing the next version. So
Yeah, I was
That's
just
what it
surprised
is.
it cost that much.
Yeah. I actually got a quote from another, not to be mentioned, it was like $60 a copy.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, we'll take one.
really good color though.
I know.
So anyway, yeah, that's what it is. And it's beautiful to have this kind of format, and it is, I think, very functional too, but it's really meant to be electronic. That's really the design, which is what it will be mostly used in that format.
Most likely.
But during a review period, there's a little.
It's nice to have something to mark up on the nice color
Right.
copy.
Yeah, it is nice. That is the problem, is that it's not comment friendly.
Right.
Though I have to say, I already got comments on it. Somebody with Mac did an overlay and identified and put a square around a section and provided a comment in the square. So I have gotten it that way.
Cool.
That was interesting.
All right. Comments online, Mr. Fairman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two suggestions to Commissioner Coakley. The first one is that a copy of the town plan, which I understand is really expensive to print, be made available at Putney Public Library. And the other is, she mentioned modeling a hearing in Putney after a hearing in Brattleboro. I would offer the caution that the town of Brattleboro has a charter from the Vermont General Assembly, which Putney does not have. So it is possible, I don't know, but it is possible that they can do things differently than we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And you will find, well, if it's still there, a copy, or we put 2 copies at the library. So
Okay. Are people allowed to like check them out?
we're not asking anybody to monitor them.
Okay.
So actually, our clerk, Robin Ekstrom, is going around and looking to see if they're still there.
Okay.
So that's our method.
Laura?
Did you check in with the library about printing?
We did not.
They are that's who I do all of our food shelf printing from. They're the cheapest.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we're not done printing
Yeah,
expensive
just so
things,
you
so
know.
that's very good to know.
Yeah,
Thank you
just so
so
you're
much.
aware.
I appreciate that.
No.
Great. Well, very good. Okay.
Okay.
Any other?
Any other questions in the room?
Okay.
Online?
Exciting.
So then I just have an update about implementing the town plan.
Okay.
It's not done yet, but it's time to be looking for funds to implement it. So this is a bit of an update, a few things. So once a year, the state of Vermont, the Department of Housing and Community Development has grants for zoning bylaw modernization and also municipal planning grants. These were announced at the end of July, so just a few days ago. At this point, the Planning Commission is proposing a few things relative to that. So we are applying for a zoning bylaw modernization grant. So if you look at the implementation plan in the town plan, and I did this, I copied all the things that had our name on it, and it was like 17 things, and 2/3 of them were about zoning bylaw updates. So that's a very big to-do. And grants are available up to $25,000 for that, requiring a 10% match at minimum, cash match. So we'll be asking the town to provide that. It's possible when we're done that we might need a total of $30,000. We're not sure yet, but it'll be, a match up $2,500 to $3,000 for that one. So that is due November 1st. And we will need a resolution from the Selectboard approving the grant application.
Okay.
So we'll come to you about that later and have that filled out. We'll give you time to review that. And then there's a municipal planning grant program, and it funds a range of things. It's hard to pick But the thing that comes to the top is a housing needs assessment and action plan. This will support the zoning update process. It also will support other actions to address the urgent need to expand housing, both municipal activities and activities that can be done through community initiatives. We're very fortunate that Our Future Putney is focused on housing solutions, and both Pip Bannister and I have been meeting with them. We met today with the Housing Needs Assessment subgroup. They're wanting to do, they're doing some studies, and we've agreed to collaborate on that. And I told them if and when we're able to get a grant, that we would form, a short-term project advisory committee that would invite them and probably some others to help make sure that the scope and the information we get is used and useful for the community. So that one again is another November 1st, same deal. That one, the grant is up to $30,000. We haven't done a full assessment yet, but that may be sufficient for what we need. So at this point, that's a reasonable number. And so that would be another 10% match to get that, whatever funding we ask for. They'll give up to $30,000, so it would be $3,000 if we asked for that for a $33,000 project. That will need a select board resolution too. So we're preparing applications and identifying possible consultants. It's very important that actually you know that there's consultants available. You can't commit anything, but you have to complete it within timeframe. So that tends to be, knows this from experience, the difficulty is actually knowing who might be available. So we're researching that as well as looking at examples of what others have done. So we're in that step right now. Another thing that is a priority to move forward is a comprehensive recreation plan. This will be a time for me to note that one of the important changes that's already been told to us about our language in the town plan is not to use the word master plan, which you will see in several places. We will use comprehensive plan as a more appropriate way to format. So the implementation plan includes having the planning commission assist the town's setup and development of the recreation board, along with the acquisition of the Cooper Field and that whole new development for the town, by creating a comprehensive recreation plan. That is something, once again, we will do with the town, with Our Future Putney. In this case, we would work with the community group and invite participation. We do not have a funding source or grant opportunity for that yet. We could possibly put it in municipal planning grant, but we only get one bite at that apple. And in talking with Karen, it just seems the housing issue is the one that really we have to go for right now, especially with the zoning bylaw update happening. Those are very urgent. So we will continue to look for funding opportunities to do that. There are other places to look. Unfortunately, we don't have to write that one at the same time as the town plan and the other grant proposals. But we are doing one other, and that is positioning a couple of other major capital improvement projects or new projects for future funding. So there's something called the Southeast Vermont Economic Development Strategy, otherwise known as SEVEDS. I've learned that's how you pronounce it. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay,
Yes.
good training. All right, and it is an annual process where projects are submitted as projects that are looking for funding, but it's not a grant application. The projects are ranked by the SEVEDS process, which is run by the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, BDCC. They select a group of sort of independent reviewers to review them and rank them relative to their economic development criteria. All the projects then move forward to the state and then are given to the federal program. This is all part of the Community Economic Development Strategy. Those highly ranked projects are well positioned to receive state, federal, and other funding. So one, it makes you put your ideas down on paper, which is very helpful in looking at other funding sources, but it actually makes you visible to funders and a way to go address them. So the two projects that we're moving forward into that, and you can have multiple projects in that one, and they don't compete with each other so much, maybe the ranking, but they can rank highly. So one is called Putney's Future Water. And this one is about preparing the municipal water and wastewater systems for, it's a 20-year review that's coming up and looking at them for possible expansion for both housing and economic development. So that study would be done. So this is more feasibility assessment and review and capital planning. And that is a top priority in the town plan and for our town manager. And it will help to inform updated versions of capital plans, for example, fundraising. The second one is Putney's Future Town Hall, renovating this building, our historic town hall, to be resilient, be a resilient, inclusive center for economic renewal. There's been a plan for a long time to update it, and both Karen, along with Lisa Papazian, through the Putney Historical Society, have been working on looking at updating plans, doing a feasibility study. So what we'll do is put in a project concept for that. It will be, again, we're still getting ready to identify what capital will be needed. We don't know today. That we're in more of what they call the early stage of being able to understand what money will be needed. So both of these project plans will go in, there'll be two separate ones in that early stage process. And in that case, guess what? The select board resolution is also needed. We're just preparing them now. So we'll be available at the select board meeting on the 6th of September to come in. We'll get the resolutions to you. We'll be very clear. We don't have all of the numbers and details, but we'll give you the application and all of that so you can approve it. So we can be ready September 6th to submit them by the 8th of September.
Wow.
So it's a little tight, but I have to say thank you to some volunteers in town who are expert grant writers who are giving their time to work on this. So again, I'm so grateful for Our Future Putney, Revitalize Downtown, Housing Solutions, community centers. This is really helping us already advance what's in the town plan as well as informing the town plan. So it's truly, like building the plan and flying at the same time. We're doing that. So those are my updates on that. I have no update on the Putney Landing walkway scoping study. There's supposed to have been an archaeological and historical review done by the 11th of August. It's not that yet. Haven't heard that it was done, but we're continuing to stay close in that project, so I'll have an update at the next select board meeting. So those are some things we're doing, and we'll continue to look at other funding opportunities for priorities in the town plan.
Great. Yeah, I have a question about those two SEVITS projects. Could you just give us a little, the water one is, the rationale seems super clear in terms of economic development.
Right.
Speak to us about the economic development opportunity with the town hall, which is like how you're framing that to fit those two things together.
Yeah, so first of all, know that the top criteria for the region include infrastructure, including municipal facilities.
Wow.
So the purpose of that, to connect the dots for you in that, is that this is actually the center where development starts. People come to this building to actually get their applications approved, to review them. It's a place where community activities, more of them would be held here if the building were able to accommodate that. So the ADA work, being able to make the building fully accessible, making it equipped for people to participate virtually. So the building really is the center, frankly, of vitality, economic vitality, and community coming
That's
together.
very good rationale. Thank you. I just was curious, like what tact you were taking with
It's a
this
good
one.
question.
Yeah.
It's actually about the history of the town and who we are and what we have been.
I was just trying to figure out the economic, where we were tying it in with the economic development, the you know,
People need projects approved.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
alrighty.
And zoning regs have to be updated and
Right.
those things to make those possible.
Yeah.
So that's a good question.
All right.
Great.
Any other comments, questions on the board? Karen?
I just want to thank Sue Coakley for all the work that she's doing and collaborating with a lot of stakeholders and partners, and you know, she's a blessing. I can tell you, she's like been very helpful.
Yes.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This is Putney's moment to step forward and
It
I
is.
just see the action all over town, so it's really a delight
It's
to do it.
exciting. It is very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions online? Doesn't look like it. Any questions in the room? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
Right, and
Okay.
now you go.
Okay.
You have to go.
Have a good night.
All right, so moving on to select board new business. We have the Windham Southeast Supervisory Union report, and then we also have a recommendation to appoint a member to the independent review board. So I think we have Ruby for the
Yes.
for the report piece.
Right. Hi, my name is Ruby McAdoo, and I just do want to make a slight correction. This is a check-in or report from the Windham Southeast School District.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
The supervisory union is actually a different
Separate.
entity, and it's a little bit of a complicated kind of web, but I serve on the school board of the WSESD.
my mistake.
Yeah, so
They're easy to get mixed
I'm
up.
here today mostly to make sure you don't have any questions, make sure you, we as I'm a school board member, I'm here I'm also a Putney resident. I'm here simply as a sounding board, and if you have any questions. I also have a vested interest in making sure that the Independent Budget Review Committee has an appointee from Putney, and so I'm very excited to be here today and have that come to fruition. The process for that is that this select board, the vision for it was that the select board would help us to identify someone. Someone has come forward, but that essentially the school board is looking for the select board to put someone forward, and the school board would be appointing that individual. But the school board is looking for a recommendation from the town. That's just from a process perspective related to the Independent Budget Review Committee. I served on the Independent Budget Review Committee last year, and I served because it was crickets when we asked for someone to step forward, and so I was running for the school board, and I said, well, I guess I can just learn the ropes of the budget, and so I served on that committee, and the process going forward will hopefully involve the town a little bit more, and I'm happy to talk about that now or when we move forward. So I suppose I just understood, or I'd heard. I don't watch all of your meetings. I'm very, very sorry. But
Why not? You
but I do know, and I sympathize with people who are find the town's relationship to the school district confusing. We in 2018, maybe 2019, we Putney, Brattleboro, Dummerston, and Guilford merged into a single school district. And when that happened, all of our budgets were all combined into one. And so the total budget for the school district is, I believe, $62 million. And that involves 10 schools, essentially, including the high school, and Putney Central School. So because it's a massive budget And a lot of it has to do with schools and towns that you might barely go to, and you don't know anyone who goes there. Why do I have to care about it? But the truth is that we want people to recognize that it does have, that the school budget does have an impact on your taxes ultimately. And if I forwarded it to Karen very late, so you might not have gotten it, but last year's Independent Budget Review Committee report, which came out around the time of town meeting, which is shortly before the school district's annual meeting, it tried to do some justice to telling the story of what is the school district, what are these costs, and how do I figure out what my tax rate is, my education tax rate, and what about the tax bill, why is it different from town to town? That's kind of laid out in that Independent Budget Review Committee report, and that's one of the nice things about that committee is that they are independent, and so they work hard to create something that can be trying to take really big information and make it digestible. So to the extent you have any questions that have come up in the past about the school spending or about the homestead education tax rate and how that's calculated, I'm happy to try my best to answer them. But I throw it to you because other than that, I don't really have much of a report per se. It's just really opening up to questions.
Okay. Thanks, first of all, for serving on the school board. Are things running smoothly over there?
They are running smoothly. I think that it's a very challenging thing to manage such a large district, and there have been, I would say, some challenges in the last few years for this board from before I began serving. Change in superintendent, the COVID, and the pandemic was hugely, had a huge impact on our kids and on our schools, and we're still seeing the repercussions of that. And in addition, at the high school level, there's a lot of volatile stuff going on. There's vaping in the hallways. There's a sexual abuse investigation that we're in the midst of. And those take up a lot of energy and time, but they're very, very important. The Brattleboro Union High School is where all of our kids who stay in the public school system are go to BUHS, and so it's where every town touches BUHS, and so we spend a lot of time focusing on those things. But ultimately, I think the last year, particularly the administration has really been working very hard, and that's Mark Spino, the superintendent, and administrators underneath him, to give presentations that are, informative about all sorts of learning opportunities and processes in the school and how are we doing an XYZ issue. And so I would encourage anyone who has any interest in understanding what's happening at the school board level to look for a recent school board meeting on BCTV, and you will likely see administrators giving presentations during the admin portion that are really informative. And but overall, things are going well. It is a bear of a board to sit on, but it is definitely going well. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions on Selectboard?
My only question is the independent review board appointment is for how long a period of time?
So it's an independent budget review committee. It's not a board. So it's a committee of the board that but it's not directed at all by the board. And it is the appointment is for 1 year. The other towns, the 3 other towns, they appointed an individual at the annual meeting in March. And Putney, we weren't able to find someone, and so we said, I emailed with Eileen, and we decided we'll work with the select board, we'll try to find an adequate candidate and put them forward in the future. So here we are. I think the vision is that that what we would like to see potentially is to have a warrant item, perhaps something similar to at the town meeting when there's when the town votes on the board members for the library. So from the floor, there's a vote to appoint someone. What would be ideal is if at the town meeting there was a warrant item that allowed someone to step forward for the independent budget review committee at that time. Whether it's from the floor or if there's a way in which the select board or anyone, or possibly the former independent budget review committee person is able to identify someone or wants to continue, we as a town would say, yes, this is who we would like to put forward to for appointment at the school district annual meeting. That's the kind of the vision of what would ideally be happening in terms of the cycle of appointment. So someone would be appointed in March. There would be a discussion at the town meeting. The appointment would be at the annual meeting, and that person would serve until the next annual meeting a year later in March.
Okay. Are there other questions on the board? Are there questions in the room? Yeah.
I was just wondering in terms of Putney Central School, the access that the children have to what used to be the Putney Central School forest, now owned by the Forest for Learning. They were trying to fundraise to get a boardwalk out to the Portal Bridge.
They applied for a grant.
And they applied, they got it, but it wasn't enough to cover the full cost.
I don't believe they got the grant.
They didn't.
Yeah, that sort of fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that whole idea of getting the kids out to the forest and supporting Forest for Learning in some way, which is really doing a lot of work, in the forest itself, which is actively used by the school. And I know there are a lot of other costs all across the board from other towns, but I think for Putney Central School, that's an important issue.
Yeah, full disclosure, my husband is the chair of Forest for Learning, but I know that I've encouraged them in the past to approach the school board for budget, for funding, for specifically that issue, the access issue.
Right. Thank you.
But I don't know.
Right.
I guess that would be my question, is what would be the process for asking for budget items for specific schools? Would that be going through you or?
No, so the way in which the budgeting process would work is each principal of each school still independently works on a budget and proposes a budget through the central office. And so, for example, for Putney Central School, Joan Sessions is the principal, and I would venture a guess that the Forest for Learning is very much in touch with John Sessions, and I don't know off the top of my head if there already is some. It may or may not be an adequate amount, but there may be some amount budgeted for access or contribution to the Forest for Learning, but I do not know. I can say that the Forest for Learning has been an amazing resource for Putney Central School throughout the pandemic, definitely, but continuing to be that on a daily basis. Kids are out there, and a boardwalk would be great, but frankly, they just trudge through the muck to get to the forest. And I can also say that other schools in the district are accessing the Forest for Learning as well, not just Putney Central School, because it is an amazing resource, and we are very fortunate to have our public school in our town butt up against the Forest for Learning. So it's easy for us, but other schools do bus in to have trips into the forest and doing educational work there as well.
Cool.
But to the extent that there is a question of, or a suggestion around budgetary matters, the principal of the school in question is still the point person for that.
So approach John Sessions with any budgeting items. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
And I think that the time to do that is it tracks similarly to the budgeting process of the town, so it's earlier than you think, that you would actually want to talk to him in the fall, leading into the winter, in order to get it into a budget, cycle.
Okay.
Very helpful, thank you.
Are there other questions in the room? Any questions online for Ruby about the school board process in general? Okay, then let's move on to the recommendation to appoint Laura Chapman to the Independent Review Committee. No, Budget Review Committee, right? Okay.
Yes.
And Laura's here. Laura, do you have something you'd like to say?
Sure. When I heard of this opening, it felt like a good fit. I have served on school board. I served on the Putney Town District School Board and before we merged, and so had to learn to read that school budget. And then I've served on Selectboard and had to read a town budget, and most of my work at some point in my life, throughout most of my adult life, has involved reading budgets. So I feel fairly comfortable with reading, digesting, reviewing, and conveying the budget to folks. And I also feel very comfortable working with the chair of this particular committee and being led by her. She has exceptional knowledge when it comes to budgetary work. So I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to recommend to the school board, right? The Windham Southeast School District Board.
Correct.
To appoint Laura Chapman to the Independent Budget Review Committee. Is there further discussion on the board? Any other comments online? Any comments in the room? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
More power to you.
You'll be fine. I can gather stuff like this.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll watch it.
Laura,
Oh,
this is
Oh,
your gift from
thank
the
you.
Select Board for joining, for being on it.
I thought this was for the
Committee.
food shelf.
No, that's from you.
I thought you were giving me a bag for the food shelf. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. You're all the best.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we are moving on to the proposed 911 road name Old Haven Lane review and adoption.
So in your packet is a memorandum from Tom Goddard, Fire Chief.
Should we read this or?
You can read it. I mean, it's
Okay.
pretty straightforward. It explains everything.
Okay, so this memo acts as a specific request for select board approval to assign a new road name in compliance with regulations set forth by the Vermont 911 Board and Vermont Department of Public Safety to the existing driveway serving number 106 and number 108 Cemetery Road. Currently, this driveway serves as access to the existing developed land parcels at 106 and 108 Cemetery Road, as well as two undeveloped land parcels. The owner of the undeveloped parcels has plans in place to develop these parcels, which will require the assignment of 911 physical addresses. As this driveway will then serve 4 addresses, an official road name is required to be assigned. In working with the involved property owners, the official road name being requested is Old Haven Lane. This proposed road name meets the requirements set forth by the Vermont 911 Board and Vermont Department of Public Safety and is not in conflict with any existing road name within the town of Putney. In accordance with town policies and past practices, all parties are aware and acknowledge this road will be a private, non-town maintained road, and that upon approval of this new road name, one road sign will be provided and installed by the town. Any future road signs that may be required shall be purchased and installed by the town of Putney at the expense of the collective property owners. Your consideration and anticipated approval of this request is appreciated. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we make a motion? All right, can I hear a motion to approve the, what are we trying to do here? Approve
The road name.
Approve the road name of Old Haven Lane.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the road name of Old Haven Lane. Is there further discussion among the board? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so the next piece is the social agency policy. This is kind of our first read in public, and we have some interested parties here. Have you had a chance to read it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, should I read this? Should I read the changes, or?
It's online.
I don't really feel the need to, but I just ask you.
Yeah.
Does anybody need me to read this policy?
It's in the packet online.
Okay. So I guess I'd actually like to open this up to the public a little bit. What thoughts do you have about the proposed changes?
Well, I noticed that Group C seems to have been abolished.
Yep.
And the percentage that went to Group C has been divided between Group A and Group B.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully I did the math on that correctly.
And I wondered about point 5. All nonprofits within a classification will receive the same amount of funding. Does that address the question of Putney Community Cares, which got double funding under the old plan?
Yeah, I think that's what that intent was.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean, does it address it?
Well, up until this point,
Yes.
Putney Community Cares, which was the merger of two organizations, requested double for that reason. But under this plan, that would no longer be true.
Right.
Okay, that's just clarifying.
Are there questions online? Does the select board have any?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Can you remind me? One of the changes to this is to only do it every 5 years. Is that right?
So my notes were vague on that. We discussed some kind of rotating, I guess, warning every 5 years that would go to the town meeting to ensure that list remained fresh. I think it was like a concern that, it was just every single year, here they are, and they may have changed their mission, they might not need the money anymore, and how do we?
But we're asking them to submit their report every year, but
I think we decided that, yeah.
But we're not taking it to the town every 5 years, but we have to take it to the town because it's in the budget. I mean, what are we taking annually and what are we taking every fifth year?
What we take to the town is that we take the entire operating budget and we say approve or don't approve.
Right.
And the townspeople can come up and say, well, I want to increase the line item XYZ for whatever reason, and the town can then vote to increase the overall operating budget by $5,000 But we aren't necessarily obligated to put it where they say we should put it. So it's kind of like take it under advisement, as opposed to putting it all the way out there and saying these are the agencies that we think we want to fund, and these are the appropriate amounts that we want to fund, and pick and choose. You know, basically the town would have an opportunity to say, well, we don't like them anymore, or we think they should have more money, or something like. So it's a more direct. They would have more direct control over the list.
So, and we would only do that every 5 years.
That was my
I think
understanding
number
of our
8
conversation.
is a little confusing because the select board shall require that the list of proposed nonprofits be reviewed. How is it going to be reviewed? And who are we requiring? Yeah, it's just not clear to me what that's saying. Like,
well, do you remember the conversation?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember. But I vaguely remember the conversation. So clearly, this is not
not quite what we thought.
making me. It's not jogging my memory of specifically how we're going to do it, and I think we need to do that. The select board shall require that the list of proposed nonprofits be reviewed and readopted.
I think maybe reviewed would be reviewed by the select board, and then readopted as a warning on the next select board, on the next town meeting.
Okay, so could we say the select board shall review the list every 5 years? So we will review the list every 5 years and bring that to the town as a, what did you say? Is it a
warning? I mean, I know it's a warning. I'm losing it.
Resolution.
No, it's a, what do we put on, Karen, help me out here. What do we put on the town warning?
The
articles. Thank you.
Right, we'll put the list.
Yes.
Yeah, is that
As
what
a
we're saying? The slate, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to have that part. We could just say that we review it every 5 years. What I remember is that there was some concern that, we were just gonna, revamp this and go our merry way, and things change.
Because the select board can decide just to add somebody.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I think it should be reviewed every 3 years, not 5.
Yeah, that's what I thought we talked about.
Well,
for some reason.
it's to reevaluate every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So those are my notes that I have.
3, so, can you tell me
So
what
the
you want?
select board shall review the list of proposed nonprofits every 3 years, right?
Okay, and do we feel like we need to bring it to the town or not?
Well, here's the thing, it's gonna be in the budget.
Yeah.
And the voters get to vote on it anyway. So if there's something in there, they can move from the floor to change it.
Right.
So, and they have that right to do that.
I think we found this year that putting them on the floor did get messy.
Well, they had to put themselves on the floor. I mean,
Yeah, but we kind of just required everybody to,
right.
get on the warning and.
Because when a new agency requests an appropriation, they have to petition, usually they get a petition for 3 consecutive years, and then they're like added automatically.
Did we keep that in here?
So, no, I don't think we did, but.
Do we like that?
The other thing too.
Maybe that's why, maybe we eliminated that and just said we were gonna review them every 3 years.
Right. The other
Maybe
thing
that's
too
what it
was some towns put each appropriation as an article in the warning, and they vote one by one.
We don't want to do that.
And they have a lot. So.
My understanding was that the group list format was to address that very thing, because previously we did have each one
Right.
and argued every one
Right,
and it was, time consuming.
yes.
So that was, this approach was to address that concern.
Okay. So I have right here, the select board shall review the list of proposed nonprofits every 3 years. And I've taken out the part where we're putting it to town meeting. Is that fair?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, that,
Yeah, I
you know,
think
we'll
that's-
do it in a select board meeting, we'll have a
Right.
discussion, anybody can, you know, come to that.
Yeah.
But we're not giving, oh, so if somebody, I'm going to number 7, which says people still have, organizations still have a right to put,
They still have the
right
right
to,
under this statute to petition an article. Yeah.
Yes.
right.
Yep.
But would they be petitioning like they did last year to be added to what are they petitioning, you know what I mean? To be
Well, that's
added.
not clear, is it? So, I mean, they could petition, theoretically, they could petition to say, we want $10,000 from the town.
Right,
And the voters have an opportunity to say, well, we don't want to do that, we want to put you in tier A or whatever.
right,
But they could also vote to give them $10,000.
right.
So, I mean, that's the thing about petition articles is they can kind of craft it however they want. I don't
Okay.
know that we could really restrict that.
Right, I didn't know if we wanted to guide it, you know, like this time, you know,
Yeah.
we, you know, we asked them to petition to be on that list, not to petition just for money, you know. Right, so that's
I
what,
don't know, this actually says which ones would like more funding than proposed, retain the right.
right, so it's not talking about being added to the list unless you just read that as if you didn't get any, if you're not on the list, then petitioning to be on the list is more money than you.
Right.
You know, I mean, how do people get on the list?
All right, so.
That's procedural. No.
Oh, man. Okay, so for that one, so you want to retain the right under to petition an article for the warning of the town meeting to be, well, see, I don't know what to do with this.
Basically. Right. This is what I propose. So we're saying each October, we're gonna send it out to the ones who are already on the list.
Correct.
Right.
New organizations that want to be added to the list should submit that form at the same time, so that we can
So they can
consider
petition
it.
us.
Correct.
Right, so we need another point here, you know, the point 1 is about people currently on the list, so we need a point about if you want to be added to the list, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I might have removed that. Maybe not on purpose, but because there was a part on here, I thought, that said they may petition the select board to be put on the list.
I think maybe if we took number 7
Mhm.
and kind of split that out and, you know, addressed people petitioning to be added to the list versus people
Not satisfied with their funding.
not
or
satisfied with the,
having been denied.
Right.
Okay, people petitioning
you know, because
for the first time.
Yeah,
So something about that. And did I take that out of the, was that in the original one?
I'm not seeing that, but
Okay. Okay. Other concerns, questions, clarifications?
I have another one which has to do with language Putney Select Board policy on funding of, I don't know why we just don't call it funding of community services. I'm not sure why we say social services and community services when social services is a subgroup, a subcategory.
Community services?
Yeah,
Sure.
just
That would make
community
it,
services.
that would make it shorter.
Not community center services. Okay, so that's one. The other one is, I don't understand why we keep saying public service or goods, public service or goods. I would just do, what good would not be under the category of service?
Okay, I guess I was trying to incorporate specifically community centers because a community center is a space. So, and not necessarily providing, it may be a place where somebody provides services, but it might not necessarily be the service itself. So I was just trying to, at the time I was doing this, I was mindful
Right.
that we had added a community center
Right.
to this list and it didn't really neatly fit in this list. So I was trying to encompass that particular,
I guess I
thing,
feel like
but I
that
don't-
is public service.
Okay.
I feel like providing space is a service.
I agree with you.
And
so public providing, that had that, nonprofits who are deemed to be serving the to be providing a public service,
yes,
So get rid of
public,
Yeah.
good altogether.
and then remove all of, as you go through, all the
Or
places
goods.
where it says or goods, or goods,
Right.
or goods, because to me that is like,
provide a public
Yeah.
service, okay?
So what precisely are we going to do here?
About what?
About these three items we're talking about?
So this was my first attempt at adjusting this
Mhm.
policy based on what we talked about in whatever meeting that was when we were
A while back.
a while back.
Mhm.
So this, wasn't expecting us to vote on this at all. I was expecting a lot of feedback actually.
Oh, okay.
Because I had a bunch of scribbles and I said, well, I'll attempt to put them all together. So this is me coming back to everybody and saying, this is what my understanding was.
we're getting it.
And then we're getting there, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. So if you have other suggestions.
I have a
okay.
few comments, if I can just add to the conversation. I couldn't make them.
Oh, you looked at it?
No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, in the first paragraph, third line down, says the total amount proposed to be contributed. I would change contributed to appropriated, because that's what we're doing, we're appropriating money, not contributing.
Oops. Okay.
So, in the next section, item number 1.
Yeah.
Second line, questionnaire which they shall fill out. If they don't fill it out, then they don't move forward, right?
Right.
Item number 2, the last sentence, is responding into one of two
Oops.
groups.
Right.
And, item number 5, all nonprofits within a classification will receive equal funding instead of the same amount. And the only clarification I would like to ask, what is significant compared to significant level of public services or, significant level of public services?
Where are you?
So item number 2 in group B, right? Nonprofits based outside of Putney which are providing a significant, what are you referring to as significant?
I guess it's gonna, so.
Is it 80%?
We talked about that, right? So we were trying to figure out, so that's part of the questionnaire. There's, we were trying to suss that out. So,
Right.
so it was like your total budget and what total percentage of your budget are you serving Putney residents? And I don't know if
How do you explain that though?
Well, I don't know that we can. In a way, I feel like it's what we have to discuss. I mean, Brattleboro Women's Freedom
Right,
Center.
right. You brought that up.
Right, is
Yeah.
significant not because of the percent of its budget or
Right.
the number of people, but that it's the only service that's provided for that particular category
in the area.
in
Right.
the area.
Yeah.
So that, it's part of it is qualitative. We can't turn it into all quantitative. We're gonna have to have those discussions, I think.
I think that's where it is going to be slightly subjective. There's 5 of us here, so this board's going to ultimately decide who from C specifically may qualify as significant level of services, and then if they disagree or the town disagrees with us, then they can let us know. Because I don't think we went around and around on
Right.
how we were gonna like define that, and whether we were gonna do like a specific percentage of a budget and some of it's subjective, so.
I think
of it less as subjective and more as qualitative.
I just
that
want to
we-
caution you though, be very careful how you figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be really hard.
It is.
And I thought I saw Swift's hand up, but.
Swift did have her hand up at one point, but I do have Mr. Fairman's hand. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, first I congratulate our select board and town manager on yet another excellent discussion of a public issue. I'd like to check my impression or my understanding here. Did I understand that you might be considering having social agency appropriations discussed only at a select board meeting but not at a town meeting?
No. So the way that the policy has been, the way that it's always been as far as, since the dawn of time, since this policy was written, was that the select board had the option to add agencies if they petitioned the select board. And if they for whatever reason didn't make the cut, they always had the option to send it on to town meeting.
Okay, thank you. The other point is, and here I'm quoting the Office of Vermont Secretary of State, all articles involving issues that Vermont law states the voters or electorate are capable of deciding and binding the town must be placed on the warning by the select board. Now, of course, social agency appropriations do not fall in that category. So I'm simply offering that as grist for your mill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Swift, your hand is up now.
Thank you. I dig into that because I was waiting to figure out finish. So a few questions. One is if the folks that currently receive funding have been consulted on these changes. I think that they're the ones that are most directly impacted and have the most, that was when we were handed this policy, that was where we wanted to start as the equity committee of asking folks what's working, what's not working, what do you need, is this helpful, questions like that. That's the first question. And then the second piece is, I heard you talking about percentages of budgets, but maybe that's not actually written here, but with a fairly small amount of money being given out, I would be, just personally, I'd be curious about prioritizing businesses with smaller budgets where that contribution actually can make an impact in a more significant way. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, so we didn't reach out to every nonprofit that gets funding from us currently, but I did make an effort to reach out to the ones that were in Tier A. So most of them are here today. Hi. So that was, we didn't talk to the people, I didn't reach out to people in Group B or Group C. But this is not a done deal either, so I intend that there'll be hopefully a lot of public discussion on this by the end of the process. Swift, your hand is still up. Did you have something else to add?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, Swift, that in the new questionnaire for the agencies, we do ask how this appropriation will help them in their organization. So I think we'll get answers to some of that question of like, this is significant because it represents this percent of my budget, and this is, so hopefully we'll get answers to some of those. Some of that qualitative stuff.
Yeah, we did revamp the social service agency questionnaire a little bit as well, which is part of the packet. And I can read those questions in a second. Laura?
Just to address, two things. One, thank you so much for doing this. Having sat on the select board that we, when I came in, we were kicking this can down the road, and when I left, we were kicking this can down the road, and I really appreciate you picking it up and working on it, because it's a hard nut to crack. And having read the work and listening to what you're doing right now, you are doing an excellent job. You're gonna get there. And I would also add, just to consider that, yes, I totally agree with Swift that for organizations with very limited funding, this could make a huge difference. And don't discount for organizations that maybe have more funding, but count on towns, and I'm kind of speaking from my food shelf experience here, but not for the food shelf. Having town funding makes a huge difference, because we're not just getting it from one town. So it's not just the size of the budget, it's also the scope of the service. And thank you for the bag. It was amazing. I'm sorry I misunderstood that. I'm so used to people handing me things out in public from the food shelf that I just had a moment.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments online? I'll just swiftly read the social service agency questionnaire. First of all, I put lines on it because there weren't any, and it was bugging me. But the questions are beyond the basic contact information. The first question is, briefly describe the services your agency provides to Putney residents. 2 is percent of clients who are Putney residents last year. That's before it was kind of vague, so some people would put an actual number and other people would put percentage, and there was no way to compare apples to apples. A total budget of your agency last year, and then the percentage of your budget used to serve Putney residents. How will this appropriation help your organization serve Putney? What other towns provide financial support to your agency? And please provide financial statements from last year to help us understand your annual budget. That one's also new. So that would be the questionnaire going out from when we adopt it until we change it.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Or I want to make one comment. So on question number 1, I thought we mentioned we wanted to add last year to that question as well, right?
Maybe.
Oh, provided. That's an interesting.
I don't know. I'd like to know what they're doing currently, not necessarily from last year. But
yeah, but how do you measure what they're doing currently if you don't have something from last year?
Well, we'd have last year's questionnaire eventually.
Right.
You want to add something? I mean,
It's
most
just
of
a
that doesn't
question.
change, right? So if they added something new,
You don't want it from 5 years ago is what I'm trying to say.
right? Nancy?
Yeah, speaking as someone who will be filling this out, it would help me to have a specific period of time in which to address the question.
So describe the services your agency has provided. So do you want to just do it for make it past tense?
Here's the other thing too, is so some folks, and Nancy, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, we work on a fiscal year, some folks may do calendar years, so that makes a difference.
So how do you want to phrase this? If you got a questionnaire, how would you want that question phrased?
I would say last year would make more sense.
The past year.
Yeah, the past year.
Everybody's
There you
doing
go.
it in October and there's,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
for calendar or fiscal.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
It also gives us a sense then of a year's point in time, this is what we did, as opposed to, you know, yeah, we did all these services but haven't done anything recently,
Right.
you know.
You brought that up
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
last meeting.
I'm glad you remember this.
I do listen to you, Peg.
I'm glad we have a half this brain.
Does anybody have other changes to the actual questionnaire? Any other questions or comments or additions or deletions or concerns? You can also send them to me directly if you have a thought in the middle of the night. I'll take these and I'll revamp it again.
I would just like to echo Laura's comment to say thank you for tackling this, because it's been a long time coming, so.
Yes.
And it's not easy.
No. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess if there's no other questions on this particular draft, I'll take it back and try to add those in again and bring it back maybe in 2 weeks. I could.
You can do it.
We can hold my feet to the fire. All right.
Put it on our agenda.
Put it on our agenda.
Right.
I'm like, oh no.
We're gonna make a report back.
Okay.
Can we take a little break?
Yes, so it is 7:06, so let's come back at 7:15. We're back, it's about 7:15, and we are moving on to Select Board unfinished business, first of which is the ARPA resolution review and approval. And has everybody had a chance this time to look through the resolution in its very official form? Any questions among the select board? Can we have a motion?
I move that we accept this new ARPA allocation resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept, I guess, adopt the American Rescue Plan allocation resolution. Is there discussion among the board? Are there comments in the room? Are there comments online about the ARPA resolution? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank
We
you, Peg.
have an ARPA resolution.
Yay! Together.
Okay. All right, so for our next act.
Oh, wait, before we do that.
Yes. Yes.
Before we do our next act,
Yes.
how best to get this out? Can we talk about that for just a minute?
You mean like to the public?
Yes.
So, that's a good question. So, I mean, we can put it online, obviously. I wonder if just printing a bunch out and putting them, say, at the library in the co-op, or
Right.
do you want to go so far as to hang them out at the farmer's market?
No, I do
No.
not. And I am not in a position right now that it's taken this long to get this through. I don't have a lot of time in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So
So,
I can't
I mean-
really help.
Well, I think the website is one.
Yeah.
We can throw together a little blurb on iPutney.
Okay,
We
maybe
can
on
put
the
it on
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook, usually other pages will grab it and share it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I was beyond apropos of that. If there's something that you've shared on the town of Putney Facebook, and you want it to be shared, you can just shoot me an email and I'll do it.
okay. Thank you.
I don't always see them; they don't always show up on my newsfeed.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but yeah. So we put them on Facebook. Putney. I think
So you guys will do that?
Yeah.
Who was I thinking? Oh, can we make sure they get to the
VCRD.
The VCRD folks.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
To those chairs of those committees
Chairs of
and
those
to Mike and
Task force.
the task
Yes.
force.
Yes.
Yes, that seems really
I
important.
think that's probably a good dissemination because we're not opening it up to everybody. It's
Right.
more of the organizations that are in Tier A
Okay, yeah.
and opportunities for funding, municipal funding that the task force might identify. So
Right.
yeah, so I think that's probably
Yeah, so I'll do tier A, make sure everyone gets a copy.
Okay, great.
And then the task force chairs and Mike
Yeah.
Costco. And, yeah, that should be good. And the other social media platforms.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
okay. So now for our next act is the committee commission boards and a board appointment. Committee commission board appointment policy.
Is that tabled still?
Um,
I don't know if Swift's committee
they
reviewed it yet.
Swift, have you ever had a chance to go ahead?
No, Peg was great. She got it to us by 3 and I didn't see it for our 6:30 meeting. So it's on the agenda for our August meeting.
Okay, so maybe we should table this until you have a chance.
yes.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, much clearer, thank you, but the committee hasn't had a chance to look at it.
Okay. All right. We'll give you that chance and then we'll review it then. So we're going to table
Thank you
this.
so much.
Okay. All right then. For our next act, we have select board reports. We have flag policy, but that's Nate's now. He is not here. And then we have the non-working holiday calendar. And I believe that's still with you guys as well, right, Swift?
We voted on it. It did not pass because there wasn't a majority. We're gonna bring it up at our next meeting when hopefully there'll be more members present.
Okay. So once we have your recommendation, we can move that up to unfinished business, I think.
Great,
So I
thank
guess
you so much.
we'll talk about that in probably September. Okay, does anybody else have anything on their minds that didn't make it to select board reports? No?
Just the resolutions for grants will be in September.
Oh, right, yep. Okay. So, anybody online have any comments about the select board reports, which were admittedly very short? Any comments in the room? Okay, moving on to, we are going to have an executive session. But before that, our next meeting is August 23rd, 2023, here at Town Hall and on Zoom. So can I hear a motion to go on into executive session under Title I VSA 313A1E after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage to discuss pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been, and we're inviting Karen in, right? Sure.
Sure.
I think we should. So it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session under Title I VSA 313A1E. Are we making a decision? Probably not, right?
You are not.
So that means you're probably free to go. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.